Hello? Hello?
I can't see it.
I am so sorry. I had no idea what's. Hello, welcome. Yeah, nice Claire's there.
How do I do?
Okay, right. Thank you. I am so sorry. I have no idea what's happened there, but I can see a whole list of people. Thank you for your patience. God, right, okay, right. Let's reset. And if everyone's okay, I'm just going to go straight into this, if that's okay. No gin and tonic, so a cup of tea. First of all, welcome. Keith Rosell, Sales Marvel, you're very welcome to the webinar. Thank you again for your patience. And I'm really, really happy that you've managed to join the call today. It's a series of webinars. Today is going to be a broad overview. What is sales according to my world? Making apologies when they're required is one of them. Let's get that out of the way. But it's intended to be a narrative on the world of sales today. What's needed? Start doing. Stop doing. What else have you got to be thinking about? And then we're going to break that down as we go forward. Excuse me, into each of what I call the 8 subsections of a successful sales process. Now, can I just ask? Some of you are muted just at the minute. Can I just ask? Did everyone receive a slide which is an inverted blue triangle with some question marks in? Did everyone kind of receive that over the last 24 hours or so?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's just switch you up a little
Sorry,
bit.
I'm a bit of a virgin to these, so I'm a bit confused. Can you see me?
No, you haven't got your video on, Leanne. But actually, if you're comfortable just kind of listening, then that's kind of good enough. Right, if you didn't get okay, brilliant, well done. So if you got the slide, fantastic, and you've got access to it, you can make a couple of notes maybe. If you haven't got it, just draw yourself a piece of paper with an inverted triangle, 8 lines going down, so 8 sections, so 7 lines. So if I can just say, we'll be referring to that sort of in a couple of minutes' time. So if you're new to business, you're about to start your own business, I know at least 1 or 2 of you are, you're close to making a sale, perhaps something will come out of this. It just triggers your memory about, okay, what do we need to be doing? What else could I be doing to really encourage that person to buy? This could be a really important coaching moment for you. So how do you sell? That's the question I'm asking. How do you sell to ensure the best outcomes for you, but also your clients? Because that's really important too. But how do you do so in a way that doesn't feel forceful, it feels natural, and the sale becomes a natural conclusion of the engagement process. That then in the 1980s, when I first started out selling was almost bullying people into buying. It just didn't feel comfortable, natural, authentic, or anything like that. It just shouldn't be like that. So I'm very pleased that we've made significant strides forward over the years. So I'm hoping that this will be, I'm going to cut it down a few little bit. So I hope to finish just after 1. I hope that's still okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So just 30 seconds on me. 30-year career in corporate sales for people like Hewlett-Packard, EDS, doing technology sort of outsourcing type things. If anyone's famous for anything in their industry, I did quite a big deal with Vodafone Group about a few years ago, $1.6 billion. Don't get lost on the numbers, but it's quite a complicated sales process. Learned a massive amount in that, and it's often talked about as a sort of a flagship deal in the software outsourcing industry. And at the time, I think still is, it was the largest ever deal written in that particular category. So lots learned, and that's the kind of experience I want to bring to the table and help. Ideally, small businesses benefit from some of that experience. So I hope that's okay. Brilliant. So moving on. So what is sales? For me, sales is the art of persuading others to buy. It's often held in low esteem. Different from the United States, where being in sales can be esteemed quite highly. So if you go to a networking function or a conference or something like that, sales is often held in the same bracket as perhaps being a lawyer or an accountant. It's just very different over there. Over here, different thing. We've all been exposed to double glazing salespeople. For instance, forgive me if anyone's from the double glazing business on the line, but really kind of harrowing or harassing type sort of behaviours that have evolved in sales over the years. I believe we should be much different now. Excuse me. It's also reputed to be the world's oldest profession. Now, the management guru, a guy called Peter Drucker, who's in the world top 50 of management thinkers, tells us this about sales. He says, nothing happens in the world until somebody sells something. Nothing. And what he means by that is you might be selling ideas, you might be selling influence or influencing outcomes, if you like, but everyone is selling, whether we think about it in the conscious terms or unconscious terms. We're all selling. If you're married, you sold someone that you were the ideal partner. And it doesn't get any more sort of important than that. So we're all in sales, that's my attitude, or we should be supporting sales for our organization. So the other thing I'd like to mention before I launch into this sort of process is that just because you have a sales cycle, you want to close the deal by the end of this month or quarter or whatever it happens to be, your client may not be following the same process. So just because you want to do something this month, your client may not want to, they may not be able to, because there are other people in their organization to consider. There are other people in the decision-making process to consider. So you have to get your selling cycle in sync with their buying cycle. And that's really, really important. If you don't, you're going to get frustrated, or worse, you might frustrate them and they go home. Niraj, welcome. Okay, so the reality is, and Niraj has just joined the call, as really experienced salesperson. So here we go. The mature approach. So whether you're a teenager, whether you're 60 years old, a mature approach is required for sales, because you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, and they should be used in that proportion. So it's about many things, but listening to your client's pain, will make all the difference between whether they buy your product and your service or not. Okay, so the best practice principles. So listen, where's the pain? Offer your solution, how you can resolve their pain by creating desire for your product or service. Feedback. There's a thing called buying signals. Now, they can relate to almost anything you've probably done before. So detecting buying signals is also important. Something like 93% of all our communications with one another are non-verbal. So it could be body language, it could be facial expressions. If they're verbal, it could be not necessarily what they're saying, but how they're saying, their tonality. And as a salesperson, you've got to be receptive to all of those things. If you're in a volume sales business, fast-moving consumer goods, something like that, or applications downloads, app downloads, something like that, you may not be in a position where you're selling one-to-one with your client. So you're looking for analytics, you're looking for other things. I'm not going to cover those in too much detail in a minute. The most important thing of all, over and above listening and all those things, ask for the order. So many salespeople go to interviews, they don't ask for the job, they don't ask for the role. You wouldn't believe how many people don't ask for the order. As certainly in Britain, when you're growing up as a child, I don't know about you, but I was often told, don't ask for this, don't ask for that. Maybe it was a money thing. Maybe it was they didn't want me to have ice creams. I don't know. But we're often, you kind of soak all that up, and therefore in adulthood, it's a very British thing, it seems, but we don't ask. It's okay to ask for orders. That's okay. If it's the right thing to do, ask. But as importantly, your product service needs to delight the customer as well. That's the goal that we're kind of looking for. And when you've done all of those things, repeat them all over again. Listen for the pain, delight the customer, ask for the order, all of those things. Okay, so back to the triangle. If you've got that in front of you, the inverted blue triangle, the loaded question mark, there were also, along with that, a list of 8 sort of steps, and not in the right order. So just, can I hand things over to you a little bit? Does anyone want to tell me where they think close strategy, their top line, whereabouts in that triangle should that be? Should it be at the top, the very bottom? Anyone want to hazard a guess?
Near the bottom.
Leanne, thank you. Near the bottom. Okay.
I've not read them all properly yet, so I'm just deciding.
No, but it's almost at the end. But I suppose the bit to think about was not a trick. It's not quite the end of the process.
Mhm.
Order is, I would say, the second bar up, not the end of it. The last bit is at the very bottom of that triangle is maximizing the client. So there's a step beyond just closing the sale, which is going to be maximizing the client. And that might be, for example, asking for referrals. Who else would like to buy that product? Who else do they know? Can they recommend it? Can they become a champion of yours? You've got your own sales force out there of great customers that are delighted by your product that can go on selling. And that's extremely powerful. I'm not going to go into that into any detail, but it was just to get you thinking about, can I ask you, from that list, which not everyone's had a chance to, in fact, I'll tell you just to save time. There's a third line down, it's called value proposition. Mm-hmm. Would anyone like to explain what they perceive, what they think a value proposition might be? Describe it.
I'll have another go.
Go on then, Leanne.
All right. I suppose you're trying to get across to them whether or not the proposition that you're giving them or what you're trying to sell them is of value to them, and how it can, obviously it can value them, whether it can or not, or whether you sell them something they don't actually need. So it's just
That's a really great point. Well done, Leanne. See, everything starts with, what is your value proposition? We'll go into this more detail in the next webinar, 8th of February, but what is your value proposition? And that is literally, what do we sell? Who do we sell it to? And what benefits do we give clients in making that sale? How does the client benefit? And until you've got that nailed down, and let me tell you, lots of people can't even articulate clearly what their value proposition is. I see this a lot at speed networking events where you've only got 1 minute to nail that down. It's a real skill. They can't do it. Even directors of the company can't do it in 1 minute, make it succinct, articulate, concise. So that takes a lot of skill. You can't even have, unless you got that nailed down, unless you know what that looks like, your sales strategy is incidental. Your business strategy is incidental. Unless you've got that nailed down, everything else is incidental. So it all starts there. And if you're starting off on the right path, if you get that right, know what your target market, who the likely audience is, your likely customers, know where that's going to be. We'll go into detail on that on the next sort of webinar. So, okay, so that's just to kind of get you thinking around what that might look like. And if you've got it in front of you, I'll just go down the list now. So it starts with value proposition. Then it's a go-to-market strategy. How are we going to take our products to market? Is it going to be, are we going to have a direct relationship with clients if it's perhaps a bigger sale? Are we going to have one-to-one selling process? Or if it's an app download, I think we've got at least one person on the line that's going to be creating an app for download. The business model may not afford being a one-to-one sale. So you're going to have to think about what's called an indirect strategy, an e-commerce strategy maybe, or selling through others. Then there's the lead generation. Once you've got your go-to-market strategy nailed down, identified, how are you going to generate not just leads, but the right kind of leads from people that are more likely to buy from you to make your time more effective, rather than people, as Leanne said earlier on in the call, people that are never going to buy from you, but they're interested in what you've got. Now, you can take a view on whether that's worth spending time on building awareness, whether that counts for something in your business. But in the near term, we're probably concentrating on actually selling stuff and generating revenue or cash for the company. Then if you've got a more complex kind of sale, there's going to be the solution or deal qualification. Back when I was selling technology into the global investment banking division, it's quite a complex exercise. You would have a subject matter expert who really knew the ins and outs of this technology and what it would do and what it wouldn't do and how to set it up. And you would work with the investment bank's IT teams to substantiate whether it was the right kind of deal. What is it they wanted to buy? The services wrap, all of that. That's around solution qualification. And can you do it? And if you can't, do we stop there, go on to something else? Or do we try and influence the customer? Actually, maybe they don't want that. Maybe they do want this because of reasons A, B, C. Maybe that's something we want to do. And then there's a pursuit strategy. So, okay, we sell what they want to buy. If it's an investment bank, there's loads of people involved. There's IT, there's finance, there's maybe even HR if it's a compliance or a data protection sort of issue. There might be lots of people across the bank. Who are we going to talk to? How are we going to pursue this bit of business? It's very easy to spend £100,000 worth of resource time pursuing a deal. And if you lose that deal, that can have career impact for you. And if you win that deal, that can also have a career impact for you. So it's, even if you haven't got loads of people in your organization, it's just you, it's going to take your time. So thinking about it is really, really important. After that, there's a negotiation phase. Just because you closed a deal doesn't mean to say you've made any money at it. So there needs to be, how much is it costing us to deliver that product or service? Are we making any money? Negotiating, getting the right price at acceptable terms to both parties. We'll be telling you how to do that in about the 6th episode of this webinar series. After that, as we just talked about, is closing. The different ways of closing. Some of them will help assist your chances of closing. Some of them might offend the client in a culture where asking perhaps isn't permissible. I have to tell you, the British and American cultures, we're okay asking for the deal. And then how to maximize, we talked about that just now. So hopefully that's helped you sort of complete that kind of triangle. I'm just going to hand over to you, but I would like somebody somewhere on this list has got a question they'd really like to ask. Can I just ask you in a few seconds, does someone want to ask a question about either something else or something on the top of their mind? Claire's been ever so quiet.
Hey Keith, it's Niraj. How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic, Niraj. Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Sorry for the delay. I was on a coaching call. It just ran over. Yep. I think you brought up a lot of really good points. You know how much I love learning and how much, even after all these years, almost 25 years, I'm always taking notes and learning.
Yeah.
And it's not so much a question. It's more about the importance of what you've said.
Okay.
You talked about referrals and value propositions. And the thing you mentioned the most, I think, is really important is referrals.
Yeah.
January is the first month this year. I only set my business up last February, as you know. January is the first month where I've just kind of survived purely from referrals. So clients referred me to other clients. Obviously, I had asked them, but that made a difference. Yeah. I also ask every satisfied client for a testimonial. And now I've got a page, an A4 page of testimonials that I share with everybody I speak to. And that's really important. And we shouldn't feel embarrassed about asking you that at all.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Thank you very much for that. So, importance of referrals. Fantastic. Good timing, actually, Raj.
That's fine. Another thing you mentioned was just because you close a deal doesn't mean you make money. I always say to people, winning a deal is good, but getting a client to come back to you, that's way more important. And you should always be thinking long-term with a client. Stop trying to win new business all the time. Even though new business is important, make sure you're taking fantastic care of your current customers.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Just on that point, and without making this a political speech, no deal, getting into that, for your business, there's one thing worse than no business. It's bad business. I used to work with this guy, and Raj will relate to this, and I hope, Lisa, good to see you on the line. I used to work, when I was at Hewlett-Packard, I used to run investment banking and selling all this technology, but the guy sat next to me worked for a big information services company. We can all guess what the name might be. But anyway, he sold millions every single month, and I was really jealous, if you like. I worked really hard, and I wasn't selling anything like that. And he sold millions every month. And I said to him in one of these coffee machine type conversations, Mike, you're on fire. You must be 1,000,000% of target. How are you doing this? And he said, Keith, we lose 40% on everything we sell. And I couldn't believe it. But because he sold hardware with the margins are wafer thin, the only reason they made money at the account level was because they sold lots of services, break-fix type contracts, support contracts, installation, all of that kind of stuff. And the margin they made on that, they made a little bit money at the end of the month in the thousands versus the revenue they made, which was millions. So, he was not excited about that deal. So there's a big difference between closing deals and making money, and you've got to make sure you do both. And if you haven't got an acceptable deal and you can't get to an acceptable outcome, then walk away. Don't take the deal. Go on to something else. Big nods there. Thank you from Lisa and Niraj as well. Started late, by the way. You went around. I don't know what happened. We call it a gremlin, or but anyway. So the takeaways, just kind of wrapping up a little bit. Value proposition. What is it? What is your value to your customers? Who's your target market? Who are you looking to sell to? And what benefits do you deliver? Not features. We're 30 years beyond that. What benefits do you deliver to your clients? So your target market we talked about. And also think, another takeaway you can take from this is when you go to a meeting, the next meeting, whether it's a closing meeting or it's an opening meeting or whatever it happens to be, I have 2 bars. I talk about best possible result. What's the best thing that can happen at this meeting? And let's say they hire me as their sales coach, let's say. That could be my best possible result, and I'll write that down and I'll think about what that might look like and what the next steps might be. So I'm prepared for that. But also, the conditions I might not be the right coach for them. It's a very personal thing being a sales coach. So could there be a minimum acceptable result? And Niraj referenced this. There's another thing. So I can't achieve my best possible result for whatever reason that might be. Can I achieve something, a minimum acceptable result? It could be a referral. Niraj mentioned that. Someone else that might be suitable for me. It could be, perish the thought. You really like this webinar. The minimum acceptable result could be, give me a like on LinkedIn, make a recommendation, something like that, if you liked it. And if you didn't like it, send me a message, tell me why you didn't. And I'm over 18, I'll take that as feedback, and I'll be very happy to do so, and I'll put that back in, and I'll learn from it, because I'm still learning all the time. And the other thing is, I hope this isn't going to embarrass him. I am going to. I hope this comes out okay, and it's not the mirror function. But anyway, everybody does work in sales. I want to recommend this book. And financial disclosure, by the way, Niraj pays me not 1 penny for recommending this book. I recommend the book. Even I could read it in just a few hours. It's really, if you don't mind me saying so, Niraj, really easy to read. It's an Amazon bestseller. It's a great read. It's just, I can relate to the story. If you don't mind me saying so, Niraj, the Northern Irish accent wasn't the one I was expecting when we first time met. I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard that, but I highly recommend it. If you do anything else,
oh, that's very kind. Thank you very much for that, Keith. I appreciate that.
you're very welcome. So stop the head trash. Head trash is a mindset thing. Perhaps you want to. You're afraid to call up the customer and ask for that order because you're afraid of being rejected. Something all salespeople, even seasoned salespeople, hate making cold calls because they might get rejected, might not get them. Lots of stuff might happen. What will definitely happen is if you don't make that call, you definitely won't get through that person. So stop the head trash. Get your mindset right before you and make that call, or whatever is stopping you moving your business forward. So head trash. Just get rid of it. So, love to see you on this webinar series. It's free. There's 8 more, and we're dealing with each section of that kind of triangle as you go through in a little bit more detail. I've really enjoyed this. I'm very sorry I had a bit of a late start, but also I'll be very, since it is free, I'd be very grateful if you can make some sort of recommendation if you liked it. If you want some feedback, then please, again, over 18, let me have some of that. Recommend book with Niraj, and by all means, you can kind of Google that, or if you send me a message, I'll send you a link to it. The next webinar is going to be What's Your Value Proposition? We talked about that briefly, but it's going to be on the 8th of February. Love to see you on that. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter. Twitter's not my main platform. LinkedIn is my main platform. And you can direct message me, email me at keith@salesmarvel.co.uk. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for your patience, and thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Appreciate it.
Keith, before you go, I'm having my first holiday in a year next month, so I'm away from the 5th. So can you make sure you send me the link so I can share it on my social media platforms, okay?
Yeah, will do. Will do. Thanks.
And well done, your webinar. It's very good.
Bless you. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.